Shri Vibhor Jain, CEO ONDC. To moderate this session, may I request Bhanuchandra Nagarajan, Senior Non-Resident Fellow at CIEU. So ladies and gentlemen, one nation, many pathways, multimodal mobility. The wonderful speakers are with you. Banu, mic is yours. Banu, keep an eye on the timer.
Good afternoon. We have had quite a few exciting sessions, and this is another one simply because it is going through such a rapid change, and they are actually futuristic things that are happening here, and we have two very important people here. One is actually a player in the game, and the other one is actually creating the back end or the backbone for other players to come and collaborate and start enterprises and so on. So since it's a future-oriented topic, I'm going to start with Shan. Shan, so first of all, Shan runs Namma Yatri. I hope you have heard about it. Shan, why don't you just quickly talk about Namma Yatri, and then I'll ask you a follow-up question immediately.
Yeah. So Namma Yatri is a community-led open mobility platform running on ONDC. The idea is to empower drivers by giving a technology that will help them earn more with respect and dignity, and also make the mobility a lot more sustainable with the support of open network like ONDC.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. So how is it different from the normal Ola, Uber?
Okay, maybe I think we'll rewind back a little bit on 2020. Namma Yatri was born out of our personal experience of the pain that we as customers have gone through in Bangalore in 2022, 23. If you are a customer, it's a little hard to get rides either as a customer when you have seen the pain of not being able to get rides during peak time, or even if you get it, it's not reliable. So then we thought maybe the drivers are happy. But what we realized that drivers are not happy either. In fact, they were much worse off than even the customers. What we realized is that they were paying a very high commission to the platforms, the technology platforms. Then we started seeing okay, why should it be, right? Technology, and India is the land of so much of technology, and our parent company JustPay was one of the early adopters and contributors of UPI. And UPI today, we have seen the kind of massive revolution and the growth. Why should technology cost this much? And the people who do the real work, right? I think the drivers, they spend 10, 12 hours driving. They invest in the vehicle. They invest in the fuel and insurance and operations, etc. But them getting 70% and the technology platform getting 30% is somewhere didn't seem right to us. And with so much of technology here, and we always get inspired by India's tech team. Sharat Sharma was there, and Nandan Nilakani. The way they have thought about Aadhaar, UPA, etc. And that's when they felt, why can't technology be thought like a digital public infrastructure, especially from a mobility context, and then later for the entire retail as well. And that sounded really good for us. And because we are techies, we felt that, okay, why can't we build an exciting technology? And to build that right, you'll have to get that first-hand experience. So we started driving autos and cabs to really understand what the pain of a driver is. And it was not easy to drive an auto for 10, 12 hours in the traffic and the heat and the winter, etc. That's when we felt that, okay, we have to make it extremely helpful for the driver. And we felt that this commission is what they are not liking it. But There is also the transparency issues between the platforms and the drivers, right? Whatever the customer is paying, the driver doesn't really have an understanding of what's happening. There are rampant cancellations and deactivations of the drivers by these platforms. So what started off as a benevolent platform, technology platforms, over a period of time, started affecting the very own personal growth of the drivers. So we felt that, okay, can we democratize it? And that's when we cannot do it as an individual company. We might be good at technology. That's why we needed an ecosystem approach. And that's when ONDC came into the picture. We are so aligned in democratizing commerce, ONDC's vision. And we felt that, okay, we are good at least on one problem of mobility. Let's take it up. And good thing is that the drivers are very keen on supporting it. I think big credit to the Bangalore drivers and the drivers associations, unions, etc. What they said is like, okay, you guys give us the best technology. We will start promoting it as our own app. In Namma means our, it's Hamara, Apna, equivalent of that. And Yatri is a customer. We told that the platform doesn't own the customer. The customer is the driver's customer. That's why it was called as our customer, Namma Yatri. And they started promoting it, and that's the genesis. And I would say the big credit to the drivers who have been very open to experiment it, and ONDC to have facilitated this. But I think today the most important thing is it's not just, let's say, a Namayatri or ONDC. Today the entire industry has moved away from the commission-based model to zero commission model. I think it's a big transformation, big credit to people like Koshi and people like Vibor who have been relentlessly pushing this forward. But what is important, I think, since you asked about the future, we have seen this kind of a cycle evolve, right? The platforms always will give some benefits, but later try to extract it. So how do we make this sustainable and long-term for the drivers? Is where I think a lot of our foundational work along with ONDC and the ecosystem and the government will happen over the years.
Super, very succinctly put. So Vibor, so people like Sean, or if I can put it in a very simplistic manner, piggybacking on the platforms that ONDC is creating, right? So can you give me an overview of how the transportation part of ONDC is coming up? We heard a bit about the food delivery and like the grocery delivery aspects. So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, thanks. So I think if I look at the entire transportation or the mobility landscape, it's a pretty vast landscape, right? And I think each one of us uses multi-modes in terms of daily transit requirements, right? It could be public transport in the form of buses, metros. Shan spoke about, shared mobility in terms of auto rickshaws, cabs, So I think if you look at it, it's a vast sort of landscape in terms of, transit. What we are looking at is to say, how can we enable everything seamless end to end, right? And I think, and let me, paint some examples. Obviously, a lot of us use metros as public transport. There is a first mile to the metro trip. There is a last mile, right? Now, first mile basically means if I'm going from my house to the metro station, I may either, book a cab, I may do an auto rickshaw, or I may take a bus to reach or maybe a shared auto or a shared, bike as well. From there, I'll take a metro connectivity, from point A to point B. And then from there, if I need to go to my office, I may again take one of those modes in terms of the last mile. The question is, can this entire journey where multiple partners are involved? So today what happens is, since there are multiple entities involved, multiple partners involved, I need to have multiple applications to enable that seamlessly, right? However, think of it in a world where using one app, maybe say Namayatri as an example, given Shan is here. So given Namayatri, can I stitch the entire journey end to end on Namayatri itself? Which means Namayatri will help me book the bike taxi. It will help me stitch the metro connectivity and then maybe a shared auto towards the end of my journey, right? If that could be planned from a timing perspective, from a booking perspective and experience perspective, it becomes a seamless journey for the user, right? I think that's where directionally this is going.
It's very agentic.
It's not agentic, frankly. To be fair, I think, in fact, last week is Shan when he launched the entire, the multimodal journey part of it. So today, as an example, some of these pieces are already enabled on Namayatri, right? So you can book a last mile and the first mile on, a shared auto or a taxi on Namayatri. And again, you can also book a metro ride as the middle mile using the same application. And that's already enabled on a platform like Namayatri.
Okay, so fantastic. So you're, if I can, read between the lines, you're saying that platforms like ONDC make it possible for these multimodal systems to be put in place easier compared to, say, standalone systems. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think let's also understand how is it happening, right? So obviously, Shan and team, as an example out here, are enabling the auto rickshaw rides and the taxi rides, right? Obviously, they don't do the metro rides themselves, right? Now, we have Delhi Metro or a Bangalore Metro or a Chennai Metro, which has onboarded the ONDC network. Now, what it enables is, given they are on the network, application Namayatri can enable those metro ticket bookings on their application as well, right? So while they are sort of providing the software for the auto rickshaw drivers or the cab drivers, they are leveraging the ONDC network as well for getting the metro ticket booking happening on their application. And obviously the last mile could be maybe someone else as well. The good news out there is that in case, on occasions, Namayatri does not have supply for a particular cab booking or auto rickshaw rider booking that I'm doing, other platforms can pull in and provide me that particular ride, which means, and again, I'm just taking an example out here, tomorrow there could be a supply of Uber or an Ola, which could still be available to a user of Namayatri to stitch the end-to-end journey very seamlessly, right? Now, those possibilities are only possible because you have a network construct where everyone is sort of a cohort which is working together to stitch that journey for the user and not an entity alone which is doing it, right?
Understood.
So it's more of a cooperative sort of a scenario. And I think what we are now looking at in terms of even Sehkar Taxi, which is the next initiative from the government of India in terms of having cooperatives for taxi services across the country, is again is a step in that direction where we're saying how do we get a lot of these players who are in this business onto a network so that they can all collaborate and provide a seamless service to the consumer.
Fantastic. Shan, coming back to you, I'm a layman, so I'm understanding that a bit of the tech heavy lifting is sort of outsourced or done by people like ONDC, right? So given that, how is the nature of your transportation service different from others? Like, are you guys focusing more on your immediate customers, the auto drivers, or have you become a provider of intelligence and customer information? How has it changed? You are definitely not like the other platforms that have their own proprietary software and stuff. So can you just explain?
Yeah, so I think the beauty of an open network is that it offers the core rails and the protocols, but it is left to the private innovations to work on it, right? The public infra and ONDC, it's a very lightweight protocol in the sense it is a discovery platform. It enables more innovations to be built, like what Vibor told, the various inventories are made available, let's say a metro, bus, an auto, how to stitch all of these things together to make it exactly look like taking a taxi, right? Our ideal Namma Transit experience in Bangalore today, and in fact, we are testing it in Delhi as well, is you want to go from point A to point B. Okay, it will do the end-to-end planning, booking, payment, and most importantly, tracking as well. If you are today in a cab, you can exactly see, right, okay, you can have the safety features, you can tell your daughter or a son that, okay, this is where I'm coming, etc. That real-time tracking. And sometimes when you are in a public transport, that 1 or 2 minutes of difference makes a huge difference. People traveling in Mumbai trains or in Delhi metros, etc., they want to catch the right metro. And if you are able to provide that beautiful experience, that is fantastic. And I think as we say in integral humanism, Pandit Deen Dayal ji spoke about that philosophy of, okay, it is the individual holistic growth can happen when business is growing, we are taking care of nature, and we are taking care of individuals as well. So it's such a holistic growth. India has always been known for both economical as well as the social and the spiritual growth part as well. I'm saying a network like this facilitate this, right? Why public transport is important? Because one, not just the affordability, but for the rapid rates at which urbanization is happening, and unless the public transport is becoming very convenient, like booking a cab, and it's the same thing like payments, right? I think Sharath spoke in the morning, right? Almost 50% of global payments is contributed from India. That happens because of the deep thinking on laying the infrastructure and allowing a lot of private players to innovate on top of it. I think our vision is there should be a future in which every mobility transaction, every transportation logistics transactions happen through the open network. And there, I think there will be enough opportunities for people to innovate on the experience, people to innovate on custom-built solutions as well. A network doesn't necessarily mandate, okay, solution has to be done this way. They provide the rails, and products and experiences are built on top of it.
Okay, so does it make the barrier to entry for a new player easier? And if so, like, how are you guys, or like you can suggest examples as well, like how are players comprehending this situation where, like, you need not be like heavy on tech to start something. You come in and you start providing services. So the environment is more competitive, right? So how are you guys going to differentiate or like play the game?
Sure, I think I'll also let Vibhor talk about it. But see, the point is in an ecosystem, everybody can play to their strengths. For example, there might be a company which has a fantastic supply or a local connect. There might be a company like us which might be good in tech. Let's say, example being West Bengal, I think the driver communities and the government wanted to offer a good solution as an alternative to the existing aggregators. And we kind of came in, ONDC came in, and the local transport department, traffic department, everybody came together and then launched a solution for the first time in the history. The yellow cabs have been digitized. Okay, if you get down in a Howrah station, you will be able to do a digital booking, which is not available in many of the other cities as well, right? I think that was possible because of the ecosystem approach. Everybody kind of chips in and pitches in. The bar is raised in terms of how we want to value add, right? It is not like, okay, I get in and then start extracting from the platform. That is no longer possible. You'll have to continue to do a better value addition.
Vibhor, I mean, yeah, please answer what he said, but also, like, as a follow-up, what is your ideal case scenario? The best case scenario for ONDC, is it to have all the players on your platform, or like what is the best case scenario that you can that you can envisage for ONDC when it comes to transportation?
So I think let me just sort of build on what Shan mentioned in the last response, right? So while I think the barriers definitely are lowered, right? Because now anyone can get into, say, mobility as an example, since we're discussing that, or the larger commerce play where, that's what ONDC enables. I think where the differentiation really comes in is the experience part of it, right? And I think while Shan underplayed that sentiment, but I think the big change and the USP that Namayatri brings in is experience and technology, right? The question that remains is, I think Shan gave an example in terms of how they've been able to convert, say, a commission-based model to just a subscription model. That's because they had a laser-sharp focus on saying, how can we keep the cost low? Something which is acceptable to the driver partner in terms of the payouts they're ready to pay in return for generating demand for them, right? And that can only happen if you have a laser-sharp focus on efficiency, which is backed by efficient technology, right? So while, yes, there are underlying rails that the network puts in, the differentiation would come in terms of how people are using or leveraging technology effectively and what sort of experiences they're able to stitch, right? Experience could be in terms of multimodal experiences or anything else. But definitely the barriers to entry definitely get lowered because there is someone else who is helping me stitch the entire value chain. And I'm not responsible for stitching the entire value chain on my own. So I think that's where the barriers really go down. I think from a long-term perspective, the intent is if we can make the country move more efficiently, on time, at a low cost, right? If that can be achieved at scale, I think that's what the future looks like. So now how that gets enabled, obviously, is something which we are working on. But I think ultimately, today the entire movement of people across the country is very, very fragmented, right? There is a lot of wait time in the entire value chain. There is a lot of unpredictability in terms of the pricing that people are exposed to. And I think that spans across every mode of transport that you're using, whether it is bus, taxi, auto, metro. If we can convert that experience into something which is, much more efficient, I think that would be a big win for the network. And I think that's what we're aiming towards.
Do we have any examples to emulate? So I know in certain European cities or like probably in the US, you can use the same card to say travel in a metro, a city bus or a tram, and so on and so forth. But here we are talking about, say, taking an auto or taking a taxi, which are perhaps not like government provided, at least in those cases. So are we, do we have any examples? Number one, are we like, trying to invent this and be a pioneer in this space?
So I think, to be fair, on this side of things, some of the countries mentioned in the Europe are definitely much ahead in terms of that experience that they can provide, right? So today, a single card, for that matter, from a payment perspective, or in terms of the predictability of my journey, or the planning of my journey is much more seamless in a lot of those countries. So there are examples. I think, yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but they're all like government-owned transportation, right? Like
not always. Not always. Okay. Not always. I think there are a lot of cases where you have a mix of both government and private coming in there, and you can still stitch a journey out there. I think the challenges in terms of the maturity of each of those individual systems in terms of their ability to talk to each other, I think that's missing today, right? Let's also understand that from a jurisdiction perspective, it's a very fragmented play. You have state transport, you have some PSUs which run certain pieces of the puzzle, you have private entities which run certain pieces of the puzzle. Question is, how do we get them all into a unified sort of a construct? I think that's where the network comes in, of saying, can we establish some basic standards which everyone follows, which helps in that unification of technology, which can then enable those experiences.
Maybe just to add to, I think, just color to what Vibhor said. The zero commission open network model, there's a research done by ONDC and us. It says that in a year, the driver partners can create value worth 50,000 crores just in a year. That is only through the commission saved and how that goes as the disposable income among the drivers. As he said, there is a very strong value multiplication that can happen through mobility and logistics, essentially both on the economic side as well as on the social side. And India is very, very unique and innovative as well. We don't need to sometimes go to the Western model. In fact, the way we do the innovation, right, I think Western world will probably follow. Classic case is the share autos, e-rickshaws, the shuttles. Good amount of public buses are run by government, whereas equally 3x, 4x of buses are run by the private companies as well. So there are a lot of pockets of innovation happen, and there are inefficiencies which can be solved through digitization, and that needs a very different thinking rather than the Western way of thinking, like for example, and that's why I think the vocal for local and an event like this is supremely, supremely important, that I think we'll have to come together and provide solutions, provide alternatives to whatever that is existing. And digitization can massively unlock value. Next to few percentage points of the GDP growth can definitely come in if you are able to digitize, and especially in a core industry or a sector like mobility. Imagine a 20% improvement in efficiency if you can do through digitization and through better utilization of the vehicles, like what Vibhor was saying. Just a simple visibility of supply to the demand and demand to the supply will improve the utilization, will improve the service levels. People can read more, learn more, people can do more business. As in, a lot of our villages don't have a good accessibility sometimes, right? Just by giving some of these things in a very transparent and a digitized manner, I think it enables a lot of social as well as economic growth.
Yeah, even from a sustainability point of view, it makes a lot more sense, right? I'll come back to you, Sean, like one question for you, Vibhor. When we talk about multiple modes of transportation, like you mentioned, like state transport corporations, there are individual auto owners, and there are platforms, other like what we use. we are also talking about different cultures, right? Like, these organizations have different cultures and they view platforms with ONDC with different lenses. Do you find that as a challenge, or like, do you feel that all of these players are now sort of like very progressive and looking at partnering with you and integrating with you?
So I think the simple language which will help unify all this, fragmented pieces of the puzzle is technology, right? I think that's what the network stands for, and that's what we're leveraging, because that's something which is a common language which all these entities understand, right? And to enable that, obviously, in some cases, we'll have partners which will help on board. So for example, if I look at an auto rickshaw driver or a taxi driver, we have partners like, Nammayatri, who would sort of, help them get into the mainstream. For other, you may have some entities, the PSUs, the DMRCs of the world, or the Chennai metros of the world, who will sort of help them. Or then you would have the bus transport authorities. So today, for example, we have DTC, which is live on the network as well, right? So on one extreme, we have 7 metros which are live on the network. We have a host of cities where we have auto rickshaws and taxis which are live on the network. And then we have a host of states where we have the bus transport authorities which are live on the network. So I think what we're seeing is slowly this is becoming a good cohort of multimodal split, where each type of transit entity is onboarding because they're seeing value in terms of what the network has to offer. The value definition may vary in terms of each of those entities. So for example, Shan spoke about the commissions or the payouts or the take-homes that have increased for the auto rickshaw drivers and for the, the taxi drivers. When you talk to the MD of, say, DMRC, for him, the perspective is, if I'm able to enhance the digitization of my ticketing systems and, my cost of operations goes down and it becomes much more accessible for the audience. So the value being derived from the network may differ from case-to-case basis, but yes, each of them are unifying towards the tech way of integrating.
Thank you. We have just 20 seconds. I was going to ask you about flying autos and stuff, but that might have to wait for later. Just last question, like, you are like just beginning, right? Like in Bangalore, like what are the challenges in scale and scope that you are seeing? Like, how soon are we going to see like Nammayatri all over India? And also, like, what are the other value services that you can provide? Quickly, like Anil is looking at
Yeah, I think challenges are fun to do, and I think with the kind of ecosystem and the support that we are getting from Samaj Sarkar Bazaar, I think we are definitely going ahead well. We are still a young company. I think that's the, as he said, entry barriers are removed, so definitely more to be done. But I think I just would like to conclude by saying essentially in the mobility transportation, 2 parts: empowering people who do the real work, which could be your drivers, service providers, the taxi owners of the world. How do we empower them through whatever we have been doing? And that's one of the most important goal of ONDC, and companies like us, right, we are very excited about that as the goal. Second is, how do we digitize the entire transportation and mobility? And of course, public transport and shared mobility is super, super important part of that. At one level, we can continue to invest in the physical infrastructure, but knowing as a software nation, right, we can bring in convenience, seamlessness, connectedness through software and technology layer, and digitization actually kind of can unlock a lot of value in this part. So I would say like empowering local communities and digitizing travel can be a great way to set up the future for the multimodal transport in the country.
Super. Thank you so much. I'm sure you found both of them very informative, and this is also a lesson for all of us that Bangalore and Delhi should talk to each other quite a lot and more. So maybe that's the last word, and Anilesh, back to you.
Thank you, Bhanu. You are a great support. Now may I request Jagjit Sareen, he is Area Chair Climate at CIEU, to come forward and help us in felicitating the wonderful gentleman. Shri Shan MS COO Nammayatri. Shri Vibhor Jain, ONDC, is acting CEO at ONDC. And our very own Bhanuchanda Nagarajan. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we are concluding the first half of the day. We'll be breaking for a quick lunch. But mind you, we are running little bit, behind schedule. So lunch will be over by 1:20. So may I request ki even if you haven't finished your meal, you can take the plates and bring it on your table. The lunch is served next door. So these curtains will be, taken off. So take your meal, come forward, see you at 1:20.